Elias lived a quiet life in the city. He was an inventor, always tinkering in his small workshop, surrounded by gears, wires, and sketches. Life was peaceful, almost too peaceful, until one morning, everything changed. He had received a letter weeks ago. It was from Mira, a childhood friend who had moved to another country. They had shared everything as kids: laughter, secrets, dreams, but now she was far away. At first, they wrote letters every week, sharing stories and pictures. But lately, the letters had slowed. Messages came once a month, then once every 2 months. The warmth he felt when reading her words was fading. He felt a distance he could not cross. Elias wanted to reconnect. He wanted to feel close to her again. But how could he? Technology felt cold. Letters and calls were not enough. He felt helpless, like someone trying to touch the sun. One day, as he sat in his workshop staring at a tiny photograph of Mira pinned to the wall, he sighed deeply. I wish I could do something big. Something that would bring her back to me, at least in spirit. He whispered to himself. His eyes wandered around the workshop, landing on a strange metal box he had never opened. It was old, hidden under sheets of dust. He had found it in a corner of the city museum months ago and had brought it home, thinking it might contain parts for a new invention. But the box had been locked, and he had never managed to open it. Curiosity bubbled inside him. Elias tried the lock again, twisting it gently and then with more force. Suddenly there was a click. The lid sprang open and inside was a woman, or at least it looked like a woman. Alive, moving, eyes sharp and alert, like she had just woken from a long sleep. Elias stumbled back, his heart pounding. The woman's gaze fell on him immediately. She was not ordinary. She had the posture of someone who had trained her whole life for battle, yet there was an elegance in the way she held herself. 2 blades rested on her thighs, light glinting off the steel. Who? What are you? Elias stammered, unsure if he should run or faint. The woman smiled faintly, not cruelly, but with a knowing look that made Elias's stomach tighten. I am Sarah, and you accidentally woke me. Her voice was calm, but every word carried the weight of danger. Elias swallowed. I didn't mean to. I just opened this box. Sarah's eyes softened slightly. It seems you have courage, she said. Then, without another word, she reached to her side and held out her blades toward him. Take them if you are willing. Elias hesitated. These were not ordinary blades. They were beautiful, dangerous, and heavy with history. He was not a fighter. He was an inventor, a thinker, not a warrior. But something inside him stirred. Maybe this was the moment he could change something. Maybe, just maybe, he could face the distance he felt from Mira, even if it was in a symbolic way. He reached out slowly and touched the hilts. They felt warm, alive, as if recognizing him. He lifted them, trembling, but a small spark of hope ignited inside him. He wasn't alone. Maybe in some strange way, Sarah's presence was like Mira's letters, distant, powerful, and urging him forward. Why are you offering me these? He asked, still unsure if he should trust her. Because you have potential, Sarah replied. Potential to fight, not just with weapons but with your heart and mind. Sometimes humans awaken forces they don't even know exist. You did that today. Elias felt a mix of fear and awe. He had never imagined that opening a dusty box could lead to this. Danger, excitement, and a chance to grow beyond himself. And yet the thought of Mira lingered in his mind. He wanted to reconnect with her, to show her that despite the distance he had not given up. Maybe this was a strange way of proving it, not by sending a letter, but by stepping into something extraordinary. Sarah stood and demonstrated the movements with the blades. Her speed was breathtaking, her precision perfect. Elias tried to follow, his hands shaking, but he kept his focus. Every movement required thought, calculation, and heart. Every strike demanded courage. Slowly he began to see a pattern, Not just in fighting, but in life. Sometimes when someone you care about moves away, the distance is scary, but it does not mean you cannot reach them. You must act, take risks, and use your mind and your heart. Hours passed like minutes. Elias trained, learned, and stumbled. Ysera guided him patiently, testing his reactions, praising his small victories. By the end of the day, Elias was exhausted, yet he felt alive in a way he hadn't in months. He realized that human spirit, the resilience to face fear, the hope to connect, the courage to grow, was more powerful than he had ever imagined. Finally, Ysera sheathed her blades. She looked at him and nodded. "You have potential, Elias. Not because of me, but because of your spirit. Never forget that strength comes from heart as much as hands." Elias looked at the blades in his hands, at the woman who had been feared by the world, and felt a new sense of hope. He thought of Mira far away and realized that maybe he could reach her again, not by waiting, but by acting, by showing that he had not lost courage or humanity. He smiled faintly, and for the first time in weeks, felt that spark of connection he had been missing. The accident that unleashed Ysera had also awakened something inside him, a reminder that humans can rise to meet challenges, even when the world seems distant and uncertain. And so, with trembling hands but a steady heart, Elias held the blades and whispered to himself, "By accident I awakened her, and maybe I can awaken hope too." Elias woke the next morning with a strange mixture of excitement and nervousness. The night before had changed him. He had held the blades, trained under Ysera's watchful eyes, and felt the stirrings of courage he hadn't known he possessed. Yet the thought of Mira lingered in his mind. She was far away, and the silence between their messages made his chest ache. He wanted to reconnect, to feel the warmth of their friendship again. Ysera was already waiting when he entered the workshop. Her eyes were sharp but not intimidating today. Instead, they held something almost human, curiosity and maybe even trust. "Are you ready?" she asked, her voice calm but firm. Elias nodded. I think so." Ysera handed him the blades again. "You have potential, yes, but potential alone is not enough. You need discipline. You need understanding. A weapon is only as strong as the person who wields it." Elias listened carefully, absorbing every word. As he followed her movements, he realized that using the blades required more than strength. It required thinking ahead, predicting motion, understanding balance, and, most importantly, trust. He had to trust himself. He had to trust Ysera. Hours turned into days. Each day, Elias felt himself changing. At first, he stumbled, missed steps, and nearly fell. But Ysera never scolded him. Instead, she guided him patiently, showing him the rhythm of the blades, the flow of motion, and the calm needed to control fear. Slowly, Elias began to understand. Fighting wasn't just about power. It was about strategy, courage, and heart. During a short break, Elias looked at his own hands. The same hands that built small machines, repaired clocks, and wrote letters now held blades. He felt the weight of responsibility. The same responsibility, he realized, applied to his life and to the people he cared about. Mira had moved away, and the distance had made him feel powerless, but maybe, just maybe, courage and creativity could bridge that gap. "I wish I could do something for her," Elias said quietly to Ysera. "I feel so far away from Mira, I don't even know if she misses me anymore." Ysera studied him carefully. Distance does not weaken connection. Fear and inaction do. If you want to reach her, you must act, even when it is difficult. That is what makes humans remarkable. Her words sank into him. Elias thought about all the times he had waited for Mira to write, instead of reaching out himself. Perhaps he had hidden behind the distance, afraid of being rejected, afraid of losing her entirely. But Ysera's calm presence reminded him that action, no matter how small, was stronger than fear. That afternoon, Ysera set up a training course in the old workshop. Wooden dummies, swinging pendulums, and narrow beams tested Elias's agility and focus. Each challenge required him to think creatively, to plan, and to adjust mid-action. He fell many times, scraped his hands, and sometimes felt like giving up. But he did not. "Remember," Ysera said, "the mind and the heart are stronger than any weapon. A human can overcome even the deadliest challenge by staying true to courage and hope." Elias realized that this lesson applied to more than blades. He could face the distance with Mira with the same mindset, patience, determination, and willingness to take a risk. He could write her letters, call her, or even plan a visit. Each action, small or large, was a way of proving that he cared and that he would not let distance define their connection. On the fourth day of training, something unexpected happened. A small group of children playing in the streets stumbled into danger when a loose scaffold began to fall. Elias acted instinctively. He sprinted forward, using the techniques Ysera had taught him. With quick thinking, he managed to push the children out of harm's way and stabilize the falling structure. Ysera watched silently, a faint smile on her face. "See? Courage is not just about skill with weapons. It is about using what you know to protect and help others." Elias felt a warm glow in his chest. For the first time in weeks, he realized that even though Mira was far away, the same principles applied. Being human, caring, courageous, and resourceful was a bridge across any distance. He could show her that even from afar he had not lost his heart. That evening, Elias sat at his desk, blades by his side, and pulled out a blank sheet of paper. He began to write to Mira, not just to tell her about his life, but to show her the changes he had undergone. He described his work with Ysera, his newfound courage, and the ways he had learned to face fear and uncertainty. He did not write about her absence as sadness, but as motivation. He told her that her presence in his life, even from afar, had inspired him to grow stronger, braver, and more determined. When he finished, he read the letter aloud softly. "Distance cannot weaken what is real. I may be far away from you, but I will never stop caring, never stop hoping, and never stop trying to be worthy of our friendship." Elias folded the letter, ready to send it. He looked at Ysera, who stood silently behind him, arms crossed but eyes gentle. "You have done well," she said simply. "You are learning that human strength is not measured only in physical skill. It is measured by heart, perseverance, and hope. These are the blades no one can take from you." Elias smiled. For the first time, he felt a spark of true connection and purpose. He held the blades she had offered him, not just as weapons, but as symbols of the courage and ingenuity he had discovered inside himself. He realized that even if Mira did not respond immediately, his actions had strengthened him, and that was enough to carry hope forward. As night fell, Elias stepped outside, looking at the stars. He felt a quiet resolve growing inside him. Distance was no longer a wall but a challenge, a test of heart and courage. He had faced fear, embraced the unknown, and taken his first steps toward reconnecting with someone he cared about deeply. By the glow of the streetlights, he whispered to himself, "I will reach her no matter the distance, I will not give up." And in that moment, he felt that just like the blades Ysera had given him, hope and courage were weapons too. Powerful, unbreakable, and entirely human. Elias had been training with Ysera for several weeks. His movements were more confident. Now, he no longer stumbled as often, and the blades in his hands felt like extensions of himself. Yet despite all the skill and strength he was developing, his mind often wandered to Mira. She was still far away, and though he had written her a letter filled with courage and hope, he did not know if she had received it. One morning, as sunlight streamed through the workshop windows, Ysera approached him with a serious expression. "Elias," she said, "today I will test you in a situation you cannot fully prepare for." Elias nodded, feeling both nervous and excited. He knew that every day with Ysera brought new challenges, but today felt different. There was a weight in the air, a tension that made his chest tighten. As they walked toward the city's old market district, Elias noticed a group of strangers moving suspiciously. They wore dark clothing and carried unusual devices that hummed with energy. Ysera's eyes narrowed. These people are not here by accident. They are seeking power, and they will not stop for anyone. Elias felt a chill run down his spine. He had trained for physical skill, balance, and strategy, but facing real danger was something else entirely. His first instinct was to run, to hide in the narrow alleyways. But then he thought of Mira. The distance between them had made him feel powerless, but he would not let fear control him now. Courage, he reminded himself, was not the absence of fear. It was acting despite it. "Stay close to me," Ysera said, her voice calm but commanding. "Observe, anticipate, and move carefully." The strangers noticed them almost immediately. One of them pointed, shouting, "There! She is the one we seek." Elias realized that Ysera was their target, and by extension, he was now involved. The group advanced, their devices sparking with energy that could harm anything nearby. Elias gripped the blades tightly. He was no longer just a man trying to reconnect with someone far away. He was someone who could act, think, and defend others. He stepped forward, his heart pounding, and mirrored Ysera's movements. He dodged quickly, deflected attacks, and used his surroundings cleverly. A stack of crates became a shield. A fallen signpost served as a diversion. Every action was guided by both training and instinct. One of the strangers lunged at Elias, but he had learned to anticipate movement. With a swift motion, he sidestepped and tapped the attacker's shoulder with the flat of his blade, causing him to stumble into another device. Sparks flew, but no one was seriously hurt. Ysera watched him closely, her eyes reflecting approval and surprise. "You are learning quickly," she said, her voice steady. "But remember, true strength is not just in skill or reflexes. It is in understanding the situation, staying calm, and protecting what matters." Elias nodded, thinking of Mira again. He realized that his longing to reconnect with her had given him more than motivation. It had given him clarity. He could not control the distance or the unknowns of life, but he could control his actions. He could act with courage, care, and ingenuity. The fight continued, growing more intense. Elias ducked under a swinging device, rolled past a glowing beam, and used the environment to his advantage. Every move required focus, creativity, and heart. He was not invincible, but he was human, and that humanity was becoming his greatest strength. At one point, a device flew dangerously close to Ysera. Without thinking, Elias shouted, "Watch out!" and threw a metal pipe he had picked up. It struck the device, sending it off course. Ysera moved quickly to finish neutralizing the threat, and Elias realized something important. He did not have to be perfect alone. Humans could rely on cooperation, trust, and shared purpose to overcome challenges far greater than themselves. The strangers finally retreated, realizing they could not defeat the duo. Elias and Ysera stood among the scattered debris, breathing heavily but victorious. Elias felt a surge of pride. He had faced real danger, defended someone else, and acted decisively. He had used courage, ingenuity, and his heart. Human qualities that no machine or device could replicate. Sarah looked at him with a rare smile. "You have done well. Not because you were the strongest, but because you were human. You thought, adapted, and acted with purpose. That is what makes humans remarkable." Elias felt a warmth spread through him. For weeks, he had been frustrated by the distance between him and Mira. He had felt powerless to reach her, uncertain how to reconnect. But now he understood that courage and action, even in small steps, could make a difference. He could send letters, plan calls, or even find ways to visit her. The human spirit, resilient, hopeful, and creative, was his bridge across any distance. That night, Elias returned to his workshop. He sat at his desk, still holding the blades Ysera had offered him. He thought about the fight, about the courage he had found inside himself, and about Mira. He opened a fresh sheet of paper and began to write another letter. I faced fear today, he wrote. I acted when I didn't know what would happen. I realized that being human, caring, thinking, and having hope is stronger than any obstacle. I want you to know that even far away, I am trying to be my best self. I hope we can reconnect soon, and that you know the distance cannot change how much I care. Elias folded the letter carefully. The blades rested beside him, a reminder of the training, the challenge, and the courage he had discovered. He felt hope stirring again. Hope that perhaps Mira would read his words, understand his growth, and reconnect with him. Isera stood quietly in the doorway. You are learning more than fighting skills, Elias, she said. You are learning what it means to be human. Courage, hope, and action. These are the tools that no one can take from you. Elias smiled, feeling a calm determination. He understood now that distance could not define relationships. What mattered was courage, thoughtfulness, and perseverance. He could not control everything, but he could control his actions and his heart. He looked at the stars outside the window, imagining Mira somewhere far away, reading his words, and perhaps feeling the same spark of hope. And he whispered softly, No matter the distance, I will reach you, in my own way. The night was quiet, but inside Elias the human spirit blazed brightly. He had faced danger, learned from Isera, and discovered that courage and hope were powerful enough to cross any distance, protect what mattered, and perhaps even reconnect with someone he loved. Days passed since the ambush in the market district. Elias had grown more confident with the blades Isera had given him, but he also understood something new. Courage was not only about fighting enemies, it was about making choices, even when those choices were difficult. One morning, as Elias polished the blades, Isera approached him with a serious expression. Elias, she said, you are about to face a challenge that tests more than skill. It will test your heart. Elias looked up, curious but cautious. What kind of challenge? A group seeks to use me for their own gain. They will offer you safety, wealth, or comfort if you betray me. They will test whether your courage and morality are strong enough to resist temptation. Elias felt a chill. The thought of betrayal, even indirectly, made his stomach twist. He knew that staying true to what was right was not always easy. And yet, he also thought of Mira, far away, waiting for him to act with integrity and courage. He realized that this challenge was not just about Isera, it was about himself, about being the kind of person worthy of trust and connection. That afternoon, the faction appeared in the city, approaching Elias while Isera stayed back, watching. The leader, a tall man with a cold gaze, spoke first. You are clever, Elias. You have skills, and you could be valuable to us. Help us capture her, and we will make your life safe and comfortable. Refuse, and you risk everything. Elias felt the weight of the choice pressing on him. For a moment, fear gripped his heart. He could imagine a life free from danger, a life where he never had to face uncertainty or risk. But then he thought of Mira. He thought of the letters he had written, the courage he had discovered within himself, and the hope that guided him forward. No, he could not betray Isera, and he could not betray his own heart. I cannot help you, Elias said, his voice steady despite the fear. I will not betray someone who trusts me, and I will not give up hope, even when it is hard. The man's gaze narrowed, but Elias stood firm. He realized in that moment that human courage was not about strength alone. It was about morality, integrity, and the ability to act rightly, even when threatened. Humans could rise above fear because they could choose hope over despair, action over passivity, and honesty over selfish gain. Isera stepped forward, her eyes glowing with quiet approval. Well said, Elias. You are learning the true strength of being human. It is not the power of weapons or the skill of fighting that defines you. It is the courage to do what is right, even when it is difficult. The faction hesitated, surprised by Elias's determination. They had expected fear, not principle. After a tense moment, they withdrew, realizing that no threat or promise could sway someone with such a strong human spirit. Elias exhaled, feeling both relief and pride. He had made the right choice, and he had learned a valuable lesson. The human heart, guided by morality and hope, could be mightier than any weapon. That evening, Elias returned to his workshop. He placed the blades carefully on the table, next to the letters he had written to Mira. He thought of the distance between them and felt a pang of sadness, but now it was mixed with determination. Distance could not weaken what was real. Courage and hope could bridge even the widest gaps. He opened a new sheet of paper and began to write again, his words filled with honesty and heart. I faced a difficult choice today. I had the chance to take the easy path, to ignore what was right. But I chose courage. I chose hope. I chose to act with integrity. I am learning that even when someone is far away, we can still reach them with our hearts and actions. I hope you can feel that, Mira, even from afar. As he wrote, Elias realized something important. HFY, the human spirit, was not just about surviving or fighting. It was about caring, learning, and growing. It was about the small actions that built connection and hope. His desire to reconnect with Mira, though complicated by distance, was a reflection of that spirit. By acting with courage and thoughtfulness, he was showing that human strength could overcome fear, uncertainty, and separation. Ysera watched him quietly. "You are growing," she said softly. "Not just in skill, but in understanding. That is what makes humans extraordinary. We face challenges, make choices, and continue moving forward, even when the outcome is uncertain." Elias smiled, feeling a deep sense of purpose. The blades had taught him courage. The challenges had taught him morality. And the longing to reconnect with Mira had taught him hope. All together, they formed a kind of strength that no machine, weapon, or power could replicate. It was human. That night, as Elias prepared for sleep, he looked out the window at the distant city lights. Somewhere far away, Mira might be reading one of his letters, thinking of him, or feeling the same hope he did. He did not know when they would reconnect, but he understood something crucial. Action, courage, and heart could make even the largest distance feel smaller. He whispered to himself, "I will not give up. I will act, I will hope, and I will reach her. No matter how far she is, I can bridge the distance with my courage and my heart." And in that quiet moment, Elias realized that human spirit was not just about survival or fighting. It was about hope, integrity, and the will to connect. The blades, the training, and the challenges had shown him that. And the distance to Mira? It was no longer a wall. It was a challenge he was ready to meet, armed with the greatest weapons of all: courage, hope, and humanity. The city had been quiet for a few days. Elias had grown more confident in his skills with the blades Ysera had given him, and he felt stronger in heart and mind. But that quiet was deceiving. One evening, as the sun began to set and the streets glowed orange, a low rumble shook the ground. From his workshop window, Elias saw figures moving through the streets, large, powerful, and threatening. The same faction that had tested him before was back, and this time, they brought machines and devices designed to destroy the city. Panic spread among the citizens as they ran to safety, their cries filling the air. Elias felt a deep pang of fear, not just for himself, but for everyone. He thought of Mira again, imagining her in a city far away, safe and unaware of the danger. Ysera appeared beside him, calm as ever. "They seek power, Elias," she said, "and destruction, but we can stop them." Elias gripped the blades, feeling the weight of responsibility. He realized that the lessons he had learned, courage, ingenuity, hope, were not just for personal growth. They were for moments like this, when lives depended on his actions. They moved into the streets, careful and precise. Elias used everything Ysera had taught him. He dodged attacks, deflected blows, and guided frightened citizens to safety. But it wasn't just about fighting. He had to think, invent, and act quickly. A fallen cart became a ramp to block a machine's path. A loose signpost toppled to knock away another threat. His mind raced as fast as his body, and for the first time, he understood that human ingenuity could rival the most dangerous forces. Isera moved beside him, her blades flashing with deadly precision. But she relied on Elias, too. He guided her around civilians, anticipated the attackers' movements, and even disarmed a small explosive with a quick combination of tools and logic. Together they were a team, skill and creativity combined. At one point, Elias noticed a group of children trapped near a collapsing building. He ran toward them without hesitation, his heart pounding. Using his blades to stabilize the debris, he helped the children escape just as Isera neutralized the attackers approaching them. For the first time, Elias felt that his human courage, combined with the lessons he had learned, truly made a difference. The battle raged for hours. Machines fell, attackers retreated, and the city began to quiet down. Elias and Isera stood on a hill overlooking the streets, exhausted but victorious. The citizens slowly emerged from hiding, their eyes filled with gratitude and awe. Elias realized that even though he was not the strongest in the world, his courage, ingenuity, and heart had protected them. That, he thought, was true human strength. They walked back to the workshop. Elias thought about Mira. He imagined her reading a letter, feeling the same hope he now carried inside. Even though she was far away, he realized that courage and action could bridge the distance. He could show her that he had grown, that he had faced fear and danger, and that he had not given up hope. Back in the workshop, Elias wrote another letter. His hands were steady, his mind focused. "Today I faced something dangerous," he wrote. "I was scared, but I acted. I protected others, and I used everything I have learned. I want you to know that even though you are far away, I have not given up. I hope this letter reaches you, and I hope it shows that distance cannot stop us from caring and acting with courage." Isera watched him quietly. "You are learning the most important lesson," she said. "Humans are not defined by the obstacles they face, but by how they respond. Your hope, your courage, and your ingenuity are what make you extraordinary." Elias smiled faintly, holding the letter in his hands. He felt stronger than ever, not because of the blades or Isera's guidance or even the battles he had faced, but because he had discovered the power of the human spirit. He could feel it inside him, a force stronger than fear, distance, or danger. That night, Elias looked out at the city lights. He imagined Mira somewhere far away, reading his words and perhaps feeling the same hope he felt. He knew he could not force the distance to disappear, but he could act, think, and care. That was enough to bridge the gap. He whispered softly, "I will reach you, Mira. No matter the distance, no matter the fear, I will find a way to reconnect. I will not give up." And in that quiet moment, Elias understood something profound. True human strength was not just about fighting or surviving. It was about courage in the face of danger, ingenuity in the face of challenges, and hope that could cross any distance. He had learned that lesson with Isera's guidance through trials and fears, and he carried it in his heart. He held the blades by his side and smiled. By accident, he had unleashed a dangerous force into the world, but in doing so, he had also unleashed something extraordinary within himself. The strength of the human spirit, capable of hope, courage, and connection across any distance. The Orcs city had been quiet for only a few days after the last attack, but Elias could sense tension in the air. Word had spread that the faction would return, stronger and more determined. He had trained tirelessly with Isera, mastering the blades, sharpening his mind, and strengthening his courage. Yet he knew the ultimate challenge had not yet come. One evening, a dark shadow fell over the city. A massive machine, unlike anything Elias had seen before, rolled into the streets. It was designed to destroy everything in its path, powered by energy that seemed unstoppable. The faction had returned with their full force. Citizens ran for cover, screaming in fear. Elias gripped the blades tightly, feeling the weight of responsibility heavier than ever. Isera appeared beside him, her expression serious but calm. "This Is it, Elias? Everything we have trained for comes down to this moment. You must trust your skills, your mind, and your heart. Remember, courage, hope, and ingenuity will guide you. Elias nodded, trying to steady his breathing. He thought of Mira, far away, someone he cared deeply for. The distance had made him feel powerless, but now he realized that action and determination could bridge any gap. If he could face this danger, he could face the distance between him and Mira. The machine advanced, crushing debris under its massive wheels. The faction's soldiers flanked it, attacking anyone in their way. Elias and Isera moved forward, carefully navigating the chaos. He ducked under swinging metal beams, used crates as shields, and deflected attacks with precision. Each movement required strategy, creativity, and courage, human qualities that machines and brute force could not match. At one point, a soldier aimed a device directly at Elias. Without thinking, he grabbed a nearby pipe, swung it to deflect the blast, and rolled to safety. Isera moved beside him, neutralizing another attacker with flawless technique. Elias realized something important. He did not need to be perfect alone. Humans could cooperate, adapt, and overcome challenges far greater than themselves. The massive machine moved closer, its energy core glowing dangerously. Elias studied it quickly, searching for a weakness. Then he remembered something Isera had taught him: observe, analyze, and act with creativity. Using nearby scaffolding and his knowledge of mechanics, he devised a plan. He would redirect the machine's energy using the environment, turning its own strength against it. With precise timing, Elias guided the machine toward a narrow alley lined with metal beams and reflective surfaces. As it advanced, he triggered a sequence that reflected the energy back into the machine's core. There was a massive explosion of light, and the machine slowed, then collapsed. Elias and Isera emerged from the smoke, unharmed but exhausted. The Uri faction soldiers, seeing their machine destroyed, fled into the shadows. The city was safe, for now. Citizens slowly emerged from hiding, their eyes filled with relief and admiration. Elias felt a swell of pride. He had faced the most dangerous threat the city had ever seen, relying not just on skill, but on courage, ingenuity, and the human spirit. As he walked through the streets, Elias thought about Mira. He imagined her, reading one of his letters, understanding the growth he had achieved, and perhaps feeling hope for their connection once more. Distance no longer felt like an obstacle. It was a challenge he was ready to meet. Courage, hope, and perseverance could bridge it. That night, Elias returned to his workshop. The blades lay on the table beside him, symbols of the journey he had taken. He sat down with a fresh sheet of paper and began to write to Mira. Today, I faced something I never imagined. The city was in danger and I had to act. I was scared, but I trusted myself, my training, and my heart. I realized that being human, courageous, creative, and hopeful, can overcome even the most dangerous challenges. I hope you can feel this, even from far away, and know that distance cannot weaken the connection we share. I am learning to act, to hope, and to grow, and I want to share that with you. Isera watched silently, her eyes reflecting approval. You have learned the greatest lesson, she said softly. Humans are capable of courage, ingenuity, and hope that no force can destroy. You have shown that today, and you will continue to show it every day. Elias smiled, feeling a deep sense of peace. The battle had tested him physically, mentally, and morally, but it had also strengthened his heart. He understood that human strength was not measured only by skill or power, but by the courage to act, the hope to continue, and the wisdom to protect what matters most. He held the blades in his hands, thinking about Mira. The distance still existed, but it no longer felt impossible. He had faced fear, danger, and uncertainty, and he had chosen courage, morality, and hope at every step. That was the essence of humanity, he realized. Before going to sleep, Elias placed the latest letter in an envelope and sealed it. He imagined Mira receiving it. perhaps smiling as she read about his journey and the lessons he had learned. Even if days or weeks passed before she responded, he knew one thing for certain: human spirit, courage, and hope could cross any distance. Elias looked out at the city from his window, the blades glinting faintly in the moonlight. He whispered to himself, "No matter how far she is, Mira, I will reach you. Courage, hope, and heart will guide me. Distance cannot stop what is real." And in that quiet moment, Elias understood fully that the greatest power he possessed was not in the blades, not in his skill, and not even in his training. It was in being human. Brave, inventive, and hopeful, he had faced the impossible, protected those who needed him, and kept the flame of connection alive, even across the miles.